Hey, this is Anger Brant, the Duck Man. Go ahead and listen to Verbal Shenanigans. Listen to it all day, every day. Go to sleep to it. I'll put you to sleep to it. Rock and roll.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really. Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Verbal Shenanigans podcast. Once again, for the 12th calendar year, Mike, we are entering the 12th calendar year. We are back for another, I guess, when you listen.
All right, Scotty, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. All right. Christmas Day #1, it showed up and all. We talked about we're going to do stuff together and all. Yep. I mean, I know you waited for me, so there's koozies on day one. Ooh.
Mike is referring to he got a beer box that we got from our friends at Dogfish, pretty much exactly a month.
Yep.
A month
Shipped
too
the
late.
Same time as yours.
Yep, because it was an advent calendar. If you saw our Instagram, I posted a whole bunch of things. Not every day, but most of the days going through some of the different things. So Mike did receive his package. So you know what? Maybe that's will help you get through the January like depression that everyone kind of goes through after the holidays and whatnot. So maybe you can have your own little Christmas advent calendar in January here.
Yeah, for those wondering, it was shipped on November 27th, and I got my 24 days of Christmas 3 days after Christmas.
Yeah.
So,
but you know what? I don't feel too bad for you because I'm staring at you right now, and over your right shoulder hangs this. We've seen Monet's, we've seen Picasso's. We've seen them all, but none of them have ever covered the material that is in the painting above your right shoulder.
Oh,
Mike, break down what I'm looking at here, what the audience is looking at. We also posted this on our Instagram, so you can check it out. But tell us a little bit about what you got going on over your right shoulder.
For those who are not aware, way back in 2023, I want to say, I was back in New Jersey, and we went into New York, my wife, myself, and a couple of our friends, to the Star Wars burlesque show that they were doing in the city right then. And I kind of mentioned it to Scott beforehand. He demanded a review when I got back.
Yes.
And one of the parts of the show, there was a lot of scantily clad women doing things and all. They had the girl in like the Leia bikini and all, and stripping off, and stormtroopers ripping off their jackets and all. You don't see boobs and all that, but probably the highlight of the
Mike Burlew's review. You don't see boobs and all that.
Yeah. You're going for boobs. 2 out of 10. I gotta be honest with you. But the highlight of the excursion, as I described it, was as they were having a dance session. A character came out as Chewbacca, a very rather tall, probably a basketball player in the city. But this was a low-budget burlesque show, so the costume was not up to George Lucas standards. So as I described it,
well, let's be honest. If George Lucas was in charge of the burlesque, they'd be CGI. They would no longer have.
I need practical effects for the twerking, not this CGI. But the Chewbacca character came out and he was twerking on stage, As I described it, I said it was more like the Jack Link's Sasquatch twerking on stage. And one of our former guests, Tiffer Wright, it was actually his episode. I described
440.
it.
Episode 440.
Yeah. So I described the entire event on the podcast. Tiffer listened to the podcast, contacted Scott.
Which is a miracle right there. Somebody listens.
Yes. That could be a first right there. But he contacted Scott and immediately he's like, I heard what Burlew described, and I have to put pen to paper and make this. So kind of behind me is a kind of a crossbreed between Chewbacca and a Jack Link's jerky Sasquatch.
And a stripper. All three roll into one.
All three of them, yes. Basically twerking on stage. The Sasquatch Chewbacca is on his knees holding a bag of jerky that says jerk off beef jerky, giving a sensual kind of open mouth look as its thong is piercing out of his, I want to say bicycle shorts. And it's very, all the characteristics on there, even on like the dollar bills, they're just so drawn beautifully with detail. And there's a little, my name is in one of the dollar bills.
Yep.
And it was actually autographed to me to Mike Love Heart Chewy. And it's currently hanging on my wall as the biggest victory in verbal shenanigans history, right?
Yes. Listen, everything behind you, I am not very jealous of. I don't care about the NASCAR jacket or the Coca-Cola machine or the bat or the Philly stuff, but that
What about the Washington Commanders totem up there?
I not only the Redskins, now they have a totem pole. This is a little.
But no, it's Commanders, so it doesn't take away from the Native Americans. It don't count.
So they did a totem pole though.
I mean, it looks like it. Yeah, I mean, it's
They
like
just
the
can't
bottom
stop,
row
can
is a person with a helmet, a Washington Commanders helmet. Then it's the 1932 Commanders kind of emblem that they use. Then it's an angry football, and then there's the Commanders W up there.
Enough of that stupid thing. The thing I am jealous of is that wonderful piece of art hanging above your shoulder. I kind of worked with Tiffer, quote unquote, through the process of getting it to you. I wanted to get it to you for your birthday last year. That was the, and I had sent you the first draft he showed. And then he kind of had a bunch of things going on, and he was MIA for a while, and I was getting nervous that you would never receive the full file or print from him. But sure enough, another Christmas miracle, Mike. Now, you had one other. We're coming fresh off the Christmas episode, by the way. If you didn't check that out, that was our last episode and was received very well. It's a 3-hour ordeal where there's the Ornament Olympics where Mike competed and won, not to spoil anything, but you also received a little present from old Scotty Claus over here the other day.
Yes, Scott, I got my Lenny Dykstra Phillies Christmas ornament, and I got delivered just a couple days ago. In fact, I had to text you because I said, I just want to confirm this is from you because it was sent to Pilgrim Mike. And I think even you had to think about it before. It's like, oh, yeah, I think that's your ornament.
Yeah. So, yeah, he won a Lenny Dykstra ornament. A quick funny story about that. I looked up Lenny Dykstra ornaments. I had 3 ornaments for the contestants that were on the show, our 2 listeners, Dom and Harry. I had a Xena ornament.
Hey, don't forget Groovy Joan.
A Xena ornament, a Mike Myers ornament, and a Lenny Dykstra ornament. I had them in my cart. Yours happened to be something I was winning on eBay. I was going to buy it. You know, there's like a buy now option. I put like a reserve bid on it. I was winning. The podcast ended. You know, I go to bed, whatever. I wake up the next morning. Gone. The Lenny Dykstra ornament is somehow gone. And I'm like, uh-oh.
I told you not to put the episode out yet. And you saw what happened.
Yep.
It got so many listens and views. All the audience members were fighting for Lenny Dykstra ornaments.
So there I am like 2 days later scouring the internet for a substitute Lenny Dykstra Phillies ornaments, like a starting lineup player. And it was not easy. Then I found myself in another bidding war on eBay for Lenny Dykstra ornament number 2. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's adorning your Christmas tree for the rest of your Christmases.
Do you think Lenny Dykstra himself was trying to outbid you?
No, because that guy definitely does not have money to spare. I think he's
he's bidding. The whole thing is a different story right there.
And then, funny enough, the Xena ornament I got for our friend Harry is somewhere apparently in like Xiaoping, China, or something like that. So I don't know where that thing is either. So it might be St. Patrick's Day before he gets that one.
There's some like sweat factory and all, some little kids got to do like drawings of Lucy Lawless and they just kids getting cursed out and all.
Getting
it's
yelled
like,
at.
You're not eating tonight if you don't finish this Xena ornament.
So we are back here as Mike lists these on IMDb. I guess you would call this the start of season 12. 12, the 12th year of this podcast. Now, I don't really get much into the New Year's thing. I think it's if there's a Mount Rushmore on holidays, I wouldn't even put New Year's Eve in like my second top.
Yeah,
four. I really don't.
New Year's Day is like in some park in Arkansas that like nobody goes to. Like somebody from like Oklahoma goes there for a summer vacation. Like, oh look, it's a statue of New Year's.
Yeah, even New Year's Eve, I don't care at all. Like, I don't know. I was in bed by 10:15. My kids were in bed. My wife was sick. Like, it was completely uneventful and kind of on purpose. But so I don't get too much into the whole New Year, whatever thing. But welcome to season 12, if you will, of Verbal Shenanigans here.
Yeah, I normally do not do much for New Year's. I mean, I usually have one thing I do, but I have to bring that up later. But we actually went to a meadery for like a New Year's Eve celebration, and they oddly had like 20s theme. So I had to take like my Izzy. Actually, we went as like a flapper and a gangster for Halloween. So it kind of actually worked out where we didn't have to do anything. So I just had to put that costume on for New Year's. But the weird thing was, it wasn't like it's not like we got in there and they're like, okay, we're going to do like 20s dances and 20s this and 20s. They just literally is like, oh, you got to dress up. It's a theme, the 1920s. And then it's just like, yeah, the buffet's over there. There was like nothing else like 20s related to the whole thing, which was just very odd because like the costume doesn't have pockets. So I had to like deal with like keeping my stuff in my wife's purse and like have to grab in there and stuff like that. It was quite interesting and all. And then the other funny thing was, so they have TVs in there for the ball dropping, but I guess they don't have cable. They have like YouTube TV. So it's off. So we're like on our phones and I got like the world clock up. I'm like, oh, okay. 10, 9, 8. Like nobody's joining in because they're looking at the TV, which is like 40 seconds off. So they celebrated the ball dropping like a minute into New Year.
Yeah, like we do Christmas specials, Halloween specials here, but I don't think you'll ever see the New Year's episode each year ever develop in Verbal Shenanigans. Like,
well, we drop the ball on pretty much on every episode, so we don't really need anything special for New Year's.
That's true. I mean, I'm losing my mind. I don't know what's going on with me. This morning I went to I was at work and I went to do a little poop ski, which I do very at work. I'm not a shy guy. If I got to go, I go. We talked about this. I'll go anywhere. I don't care. I'm not one of those guys that has to be in my home toilet or anything like that. If I'm going,
Scott's happy with a bucket, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
He'll just like let it flow, and he's like, "You got some water for this?"
If I gotta go, I'm just gonna go. I don't understand people who like walk around, hold it all day, feel uncomfortable all day. I don't know. To me, I still have people like, oh, I only go at home. I'm like, you're a sociopath. I don't know. Like, do you go anywhere? Or I
will go anywhere. I actually have a story. Like, I remember when I was in I'll say like middle school. And my mom at some point got into like germophobia, and like she like really got into my head about, well, there's so many germs in the public toilets and you can't go in like public toilets. So she got in my head, and I went to school, and literally like in the first period, I had to go, and I'm in my head like, well, mom says it's dangerous, I can't do it, and all. So let's fast forward to the 8th period, and like I'm like in the middle of a test, and I just go to teacher like, I gotta go. She's like, well, you really can't get up during the test. I'm like, it's either coming out in here or in that toilet, so you make your choice. So my mom kind of got me into it, and then immediately in that situation, I go, FM, back to my old ways, and I'll just poop anywhere.
So I go to the bathroom, and there's air freshener in there, and some part of me goes to grab the air freshener. It's like a scented little feminine smelling spray. I grab it, and instead of spraying into the air, some kind of natural reaction comes over, or impulse of me. I take it and I spray it on my shirt as if I was spraying cologne, like I would in the morning or something like that.
An Axe body spray kind of person there, Scotty?
No, I'm a couple squirts of cologne every once in a while. But I just sprayed like, I think it was like vanilla cookie scented stuff all over me. Like a good 4 or 5 sprays. And I just start cracking up in the bathroom. I'm like, what the hell did I just do? And it, just that stuff just reeks for a few minutes. Like it's just overpowering.
Uber artificial and just like over the top smelling. Yeah.
So that was interesting. I'm also like, I'm trying to find, I found a new interest, Mike. I found something that's grabbing me lately.
You should try ice melting like I do.
Have you ever seen footage of professional darts?
I have seen like some videos. Like I haven't like done like a sit down and watch it for hours, but I do know over in England, man, those like big events, man. It's like 10,000 people to watch a guy throw a dart you can't see like 5 feet away from them.
Yeah, so I've been seeing these videos, and I guess my algorithm's definitely like picking up that I've been watching these videos, because now I'm being like spoon-fed dart videos. And if you haven't seen it, folks, it's not people playing darts in a bar, you would picture, like you grew up. This is like European soccer level energy in the arena, like chanting, people dressing up as things, guys coming out with entrance music and the whole crowd singing with them. And they're like nailing, like one guy, I watched this video today, he hit 17 straight shots into the same spot. Like it was crazy, crowds going bonkers. So I, interestingly enough, looked it up today. I'm like, I wonder if the darts, I was talking to my wife. I'm like, this would be something fun to go see. Like, I've never been to it. I've been to every other kind of sporting event. The only other thing I haven't been to is NASCAR or golf, really. But so this would be fun to go check out. Sure enough, darts is coming to Madison Square Garden in June. And I'm like, we might have to go do this.
They're selling out MSG? What the?
It's the MSG like theater, like they have the theater attached to it. They do a lot of like comedy and stuff like that. But tickets aren't super cheap. I mean, we're talking like $100 a piece.
Damn.
Yes, but I'm like, we should probably go do this and see what it's like. And kind of, I looked up the footage from last year. It looked pretty wild. So I was like, I wonder if it's as crazy in New York as it is in like Europe and whatnot. And so, Mike, knowing me and doing this with me for 12 years, what do you think, as my algorithm is starting to explode, I start to do with my new dart interest?
I feel like you're probably saying to yourself, well, there's no age limit to a dart athlete. So maybe I start looking up like the first steps of like becoming the next great dart master.
That's a good guess, but I want you to think more podcast-wise, what the hell I've been doing the last, 2 weeks.
Oh, then you're probably emailing every guy who's ever picked up a dart and, said, hey, the Verbal Shenanigans podcast is turning 500 soon.
So I looked up who's going to be on the American tour, who's on the Australian tour. I basically went 1, dartist. I don't know, one dart player
Dartai.
at a time, and message just today. And it's funny because the one guy I wanted to get, because I've seen his video like go viral a bunch of times, he responded to me in like seconds flat, like possibly like maybe we could set something up. But you know what's going to happen here. It always happens.
We're going to have like the dart month.
Yeah.
Where it's just like February is for lovers and dart throwers, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. So it's happened many a times. It's happened with the sled racing, the slap fighters. Speaking of that, whatever happened to the big bootied slap fighter girl that
I didn't hear back from her. Like, I'm checking back with her. For those who are interested, like when I got into, I'm going to get a slap fighter on the show. We had one guy who said yes, scheduled 6 times and never showed up for one of them. And every time, you just got to give me time. Oh, you got to call me. You got to do this and got to do that. And we never got him on. Side note, he has a Pornhub site where he waxes meat, if anybody's wondering on that. So that was person number one. Person number 2 actually did the show. He blew us off once. He tried to blow us off twice because he lived in Detroit where the draft was at, and he just like nonchalantly said, "Yeah, I was supposed to go to the draft tonight, and my bride didn't show up." So,
yep.
And after the interview was over, and he turned off his camera instead of leaving, his friend came into the room and basically blasted our podcast for 30 minutes as if we were some national fighting podcast, like we wouldn't ask questions.
Fighting podcast.
Yeah. Just assuming we knew every single thing about slap fighting, even though this thing is 2 years old at best.
Yeah.
And then the third one was a hot, like European girl who's got like 1.5 million followers. She's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And as in most cases where it's like, "Ooh," they don't respond after the first yes.
Yeah, so I'm fully expecting radio silence from my dart buddies here, and then an influx of 3 or 4 coming in. So guys, get ready for 2025 Dart Month in March.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. Would that be something you'd be interested in going to see live?
I'm always optimistic about trying anything, any sport, looking it up, and why not? I mean, I'm just kind of curious if they have the same setup every time. They actually, if they take timeouts and they like talk to coaches about like the wind and stuff like that. I don't know. And I'll say, seems like something I would be down with.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like something that'd be perfect for this cast too. I'm actually surprised it took us this long for this to come across our people's table. You know,
that's the kind of cool thing I always say about this podcast. There's not many interests or certain things that we have not hit at some point. It's generally like we can hit most TV shows, we can do big movies, we can do most sports, oddball things. We find a way to get them on the show. So if somebody is just like, "Oh, I bet you didn't do anything on cheese," au contraire.
Yeah. Tonight kind of fits that category, but we'll get into that a little bit. Real quick before we can move on here. Another thing, my algorithm, speaking of my algorithm, I do a lot of painting around the house. Like over the years, I've done so much painting between the 2 houses and whatnot. And I'm always looking at I look at like a lot of home improvement kind of things and like little tips. I would tell you the meanest community on the internet is not it's not the right wing, it's not the left wing, it's not the transgender, it's not the gays, it's not the meanest people on the internet is the painting community. The community of painters. You watch a video, any video, it could be you like painting a 2x2 square foot of your wall. And you're like, "Yeah, just painting my wall." The first 5 comments will be like, "You didn't do that right. You didn't backflow with it. That brush is trash. Like, your technique is horrible. Why do that? You're a loser. You should kill yourself. Your buddy, like, oh, if I did that, I'd be done in 30 seconds. Maybe my buddy would be better than that. Why are you spraying that? You're splattering all over the place. This is horrible. You're not a handy." I mean, it is ruthless, the comments on these pages.
Scott, I'm a little concerned now. I got to see if there's a painter out there that ended up renting a Cybertruck and going to Las Vegas and blowing itself up.
It might be. I mean, anything you put, but the point. Me and my buddy were talking about it. Is like, I think a lot of these people will do things on purpose a little bit wrong, so it gets these like viral clips and people commenting, and that video just keeps getting boosted and interacted with. Like, if you're doing something right, Mike, if you're like painting perfectly, you get nice job, well done. That's it. But if you get, you bumbling idiot, you deserve to die, you don't deserve to get paid, you don't cut in like a man, I don't use tape is for pussies, bro. Like, you're starting to get a lot of interactions.
So what you're saying is like Verbal Shenanigans should change into like a painting podcast, and we'll just like do everything. It's like, all right, as tradition, I got my wall here. I filled up this balloon with green paint, and now I'm going to throw said balloon at the wall, and my wall will be painted.
Hey, we've had artists on the show, but maybe that's where we don't want to dip down to, having home painters on the show. I'm not sure that's really going to grab the new audience we're trying.
Scott, man, I mean, I saw the D. Snyder numbers. They weren't that great, but like painters, maybe this is the next realm and all. Like, maybe you can bring back your meth guy who didn't help you with your bathroom and all. He could be like a weekly guest or whenever he shows up kind of guest. I mean, I see a pattern here. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years with no great results. You just throw out $1 million idea and want to put it in the trash. Next to your crappy ass brushes, bro.
We did have one home improvement guy on the podcast at some point. I don't know if you remember, Johnny Moisture Robbins did come on
classic
the show,
there. I mean, the Moisture Man, like, he's a legend. He knows where the moisture's at and all. It's like, maybe he's been the one like putting all these comments up. And did you even check the moisture in the room before you let the paint?
I don't even know if I told the story in the cast, but it's so worth telling. He might sometimes go into these dumbass characters and rant and rave, as you guys can see, usually thing, and it always goes off the rails somewhere. One day I started talking. I don't know. I don't even know how we got on it, but I became this home inspector named Johnny Moisture Robbins. So much so that I made him an Instagram. Never really used it. I was going to try to make some funny things like moisture videos and like crappy home improvement videos and stuff like that.
Some people think there's no moisture in fires.
Yeah. And then one day I have my phone and my wife's looking through my phone or whatever, looking at me, and she's like, Instagram, she's like, Johnny Moisture Robbins, what the hell is that? And there I am she's thinking maybe it's like some secret account I have, that's my and
you're like, into moisture kings, huh, Scott?
There I am having to explain, oh no, it was this character we did. She's like, on the podcast, she's like, what the hell? Like, she didn't say like, oh, like, or okay, or that's funny. She was straight up like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and that's kind of weird.
Well, if you listen to the podcast, it will be totally making sense right now.
But yeah, that was quite a moment. So yeah, what will be on Scott's algorithm next? I don't know, but right now it's darts. We're gonna go with darts.
Can you imagine, like, we always talk about like the Terminator situation where machines turn against us and they try to take over the world? Can you imagine them trying to use our algorithms against us to take over the world, where they're just like,
they arguably already
like, where's
are.
my paintbrushes? Oh, the T-1000 just ran off with it and all. Figured you'd kill yourself.
They arguably already are destroying society about one algorithm at a time.
I will throw darts at you. How do you like your algorithm? Look
what they do with people, man. They just, if you're like a right-wing lunatic, you just get fed right-wing videos. If you're like I don't know, you're into arson, I'm sure you could find you just get fed videos of lighting houses on fire.
You see that that liquid Terminator show up and on, he's just bashing you on your painting skills. They don't even like kill you and all. It's just like, all right, I guess you're my leader now.
Like, how much must it suck to be the sensitive guy who was putting painting clips up and got bullied so bad that he killed himself over his painting comments on the internet.
I don't know what to do, Mom. He's in his room. He hasn't said a word all night. He
Hanging
keeps
himself
on
with
talking
tape.
about his 25 views and his 57 comments and about his painting skills.
Hanging himself with painter's tape. You
call that a noose?
Wow.
Why'd you live stream this?
It's good to be back, Mike. And I guess I can't say we don't have any New Year's traditions. We kind of always have one here on the show. So, Mike, I'm going to let you take the listeners away here. Well, actually, that sounds horrifying. Mike,
you're all mine now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's our time-honored tradition. We are doing what we call the game of God Complex. This is basically a cross between March Madness tournament and some of our biggest celebrities that left us last year. I basically made up a bracket of different celebrities and set up the matchups. Previously, we used to break it up in like different categories, like we'd have a sports bracket, an acting bracket, and items like that. But due to a recording error last year, we kind of mixed it up and we realized this is way better than the regular setup. So, so what's basically going to happen is I have 4 different brackets, north, south, east, west, and we're going to go through one at a time. I'm going to give Scott 2 celebrities, and Scott's going to choose, as God, who you bring back to Earth. Now, Scott can bring him back just because he loves said person. He can bring him back just thinking how cool it would be for the podcast. He could bring him back for any selfish reason humanly possible, and you can play along with him. But Scott, are you ready to play God for yet another year?
I am. I'm never quite ready because I know, let me explain to people that, I could look at the list. I don't know even who's on the list. I do know, obviously, some celebrities who died, but I don't know Mike's list. But it is always about the matchups. There's been times like I would think it's this person and they get mixed up with someone and somehow I talk my way in circles and that person just doesn't seem as interesting or I don't see a reason, or maybe they lived a long life. There's been guys that lived long lives I got rid of. There's been guys that lived long lives I brought back. So,
yes. And let's listen to some of the names that Scott has brought back throughout the years. Astronaut John Glenn defeating Kimbo Slice.
I might change my mind on that. I might go Kimbo Slice these days.
Kimbo kept winning just because it was just hilarious to bring back Kimbo Slice. That's why I say, when you're like, how on earth was this the one of the finalists? It's just because it's just so wonderful and beautiful to think of Kimbo Slice on our podcast because we brought him back to life. We've had Tom Petty winning in the finals against Prince, Anthony Bourdain over Burt Reynolds, the odd 2019 year where Mean Gene Okerlund defeated Peter Mayhew, aka Chewbacca, which is ironic with my picture in the background.
I gotta look up who died in 2019 because I don't know how Mean Gene Okerlund gets to the finals. Never mind the guy who played Chewbacca. Like, there had to be someone more interesting.
2020 was one of your examples you talked about. You didn't even know Little Richard died in 2020, where we had some big names. I think like Kobe Bryant died that year. I think who played Black Panther?
What's his name?
Yeah, Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Yeah, he died in that. But Little Richard.
Chadwick Boseman. Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman. Thank you. He defeated Diego Maradona. DMX defeated in the final Norm Macdonald. Pele defeated Ray Liotta in the final. And as I said, in 2023, we actually recorded one session with the old fashioned where Bob Barker beat Jerry Springer. But when we did the recording again, the file was messed up. Jerry Springer ended up beating Bobby Knight that year.
Yeah, it's been I stand by most of my decisions here. I don't, not too many flags go up when you tell me the winners. But yeah. Kimbo Slice, I feel you, brother. I'll bring you back in the 10-year mega tournament that we do of everyone here. So let's get into
side note, after I did the brackets, I filled out a bracket of my own for answers. So I'm going to be curious doing a 1-for-1 looking at yours and my answers here. So,
all right, let's get through. Let's do the first round.
Okay.
We'll get to the first round, and then we'll get to our guest, and then we'll finish the tournament after. So let's get
so Scott, north, south, east, or west?
I'll go with the west side, baby. Let's start
West side. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. Comedian and actor Bob Newhart versus the mentalist, the amazing Kreskin, who was known for going on the late night shows and doing his bit on there.
Sure. The amazing Kreskin was on a lot of he played Scotty's Comedy Cove a lot over in Springfield, New Jersey here.
That also died last year. But they didn't make the tournament.
But I almost thought for a second I opened for him, but I think that was a different illusionist kind of prop guy. I forget his name. I mean, I respect the guy. He made a living doing doing comedy, doing magic, doing whatever you want to call his act. So I obviously respect that, but not enough for me to take out Bob Newhart. How do I mean, the amount of things we could probably break down with Bob Newhart.
He's had like 3 classic TV shows alone.
Never mind. We could bring him on for the Christmas episode where he played, he played the elf.
The elf's father, yep.
The elf's father or whatever you want to call him. So there's just too much. He's a comedian, he's an actor. So I got to take Bob Newhart in this one.
Next one. Talk show host Phil Donahue versus a late addition to our tournament. He lasted 100 years. Scott, former president and your favorite voter, Jimmy Carter.
Man. Who was the first one again?
Phil Donahue.
Phil Donahue versus Jimmy Carter. And what Mike is referring to, I'm not going to go off on a tangent here, but Jimmy Carter, when they brought him out to cast his vote for Kamala Harris, he was a body on hospice, basically. It's one of the worst photos I've ever seen. I went on a rant on a different episode, but the man, 100 years old. But, Phil Donahue, a lot of interviews, television, probably has a lot of good stories. But we've had these kind of matchups before where with first ladies before, now we have a president. How can I not bring back a president with the possibility of talking to him? Jimmy Carter, it seems like after his presidency, went on to do a lot of humanitarian things like that. So it could be cool to even see some of that. And maybe if he was doing something good, to continue that work. So here I got to let Phil go, and I got to bring back the 100-year-old. Have a good life, but maybe we can get some more out of Carter. Maybe we get see. Look at us. The media used him for pictures. Now I'm using him for podcast views. So
yeah, and always remember, you don't have to bring them back as they die. You can bring them back at any point of their life. And all this is verbal shenanigans. No. Got complex rules.
I'm bringing back days before death. Jimmy Carter.
You bring him back. He's in the wheelchair. His mouth is wide open.
God damn it.
All right, Scott.
That's the cruelest thing ever. You bring a guy back like days before he's dead.
Well, we just thought it'd be cool if he did it again.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. Interesting matchup here. Documentary creator, the man who made McDonald's change their whole game there, Morgan Spurlock. Versus stolen base king Ricky Henderson.
Oof. Okay. Easily the toughest matchup of the couple we've done so far. Ooh, boy. Now, here's what I'm thinking initially. I always kind of have to talk myself through this. Morgan Spurlock always seemed like a guy that we would have had on the podcast at some point.
I was trying for him.
Yeah, I think I tried emailing him years ago. Pretty interesting filmmaker. Had some good ones. The one he did about rats in New York City, and that one's horrifying. Seemed like a pretty interesting guy, but as I'm talking through this, I mean, how can I not have Ricky Henderson on the podcast as far as athletes go. I mean, you're one of the best baseball players of all time. A stolen base record that's never going to be touched. I guess I'm going to go. I guess I got to get rid of Morgan. I'm not happy about it though, but I think I gotta bring Ricky on back to life here.
That's the thing. Sometimes you get those 8-9 matchups where you're like, man, if that 9 was in this bracket over here, it could have.
Yeah, like if Morgan was with Phil Donahue or Kreskin or even Bob Newhart, I don't know. So,
all right, final one of the West bracket: Johnny Hockey, Gaudreau,
yeah,
versus music mogul, television mogul, Quincy Jones.
Okay. Usually I always say like a lot of these celebrity deaths don't bother me too much. The Johnny Gaudreau story was horrific. Him and his brother dying while they're down in South Jersey at their sister's wedding, like on a bike. Very good hockey player, young. Whereas Quincy Jones, very accomplished, nice long life. I feel like morally in this scenario, I'm going to bring back the young Johnny Hockey. I'm going to have to bring back Gaudreau just because he went so tragically. I feel like he deserves a shot to come back. And I want the podcast listened when I bring him back. So, got to get something for myself out of this.
Okay, that is the end of the first round. I will note to you that I agreed with all of your choices except for Johnny. I went with Quincy Jones and all. I mean, he worked with Michael Jackson. He made the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, just the amount of stories with the people he worked with and all. And
sure.
As sad of a story it was, Johnny was a great hockey player, but I wouldn't say his career was complete, immediate Hall of Fame kind of thing. So
yeah, I can see that line of thinking for sure.
Yeah,
I was just thinking more of the tragic part of him. He deserves more.
This is your God complex, not mine. So,
all right,
would you like to do one more before we?
Yeah, let's go to the Dirty South.
Dirty South. Okay, I like it. All right, actress Shelley Duvall, who is most famous for playing Wendy Torrance in The Shining, versus another famous actor, Predator, Happy Gilmore, The Mandalorian, Carl Weathers.
Good matchup here. But to me, it's not a powerhouse matchup. Shelley seemed to turn into basically a psychopath for, after in her later years and whatnot. I mean, she looked like someone you'd see on an episode of Cops at some point in her later pictures. I mean, how do I not bring back Carl Weathers? There's so much to talk about with him, and he was a surprising one. He always looked pretty good still. Like he looked like he was still very with it and whatnot. So pretty sad to see him go. So I'm bringing Carl back. Easy pick for me.
Okay, well-established actor, most recently in the Hunger Games, Donald Sutherland.
Okay.
Versus the Block King of the NBA, Dikembe Mutombo. If you're just wondering, I'm already putting in some initials, but go ahead with your analysis, Scott.
This is just a funny matchup. I mean, it's like, I mean, I grew up, I don't know about you, my basketball watching days were a period of time when Dikembe was in the league in those 90s, the Jordan era, the Sean Kemp era. You know what I mean? But those are the Reggie Millers, the Dikembe Mutombos, Donald Sutherland. I got nothing against him. I just can't say oh, I'm a big fan of his work. You didn't
have Donald Sutherland posters all growing up.
No,
him doing a poster on some weak actor or something like that.
Yeah,
damn, that's how you be a king.
Yeah, you have the great original twerking Chewbacca picture, I'll get a Donald Sutherland behind me when we podcast. But no, I got to go to Kimbe Mutombo all day long. Humanitarian work, the finger wag. There's so much to get into with the Kimbe.
Okay, staying with basketball, a Hall of Fame player, a Hall of Fame coach, a Hall of Fame executive for the Los Angeles Lakers, Jerry West, taking on
The logo, right? The logo.
Yep. Taking on ESPN NFL analyst and mainstay Chris Mortensen.
Ooh, good sports matchup here. Yeah, Chris Mortensen, I believe he was like kind of in that original batch of, or at least close to one of the original ESPN people, which is very cool. Would be a cool experience to chat about. But how do I not talk to the logo, the Jerry West, a great player, a fiery competitor, a coach, an executive. I feel like there's a little bit more to get into with Jerry than there might have been Chris Mortensen, but that's a tough one. I have no, I would like to talk to both of them. Shelley Duvall, Donald Sutherland, but both these guys deserve a little chat.
All right. And finally, another sports matchup. One of the biggest legends of baseball, Willie Mays, taking on another mainstay of the NBA, a Hall of Famer and analyst and color commentator for a long time, Bill Walton.
So we got Bill Walton versus
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays, yeah. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. Both legends of the game, big of the game, but Willie Mays, all-time legend in the sport. You're talking top 5 players to ever play the game. So I gotta go Willie Mays. Too iconic.
Yep. Those last two, I disagreed on both of them, but it's just on preference. I'm not a big basketball guy, so that's why I went Mortensen over West. But Bill Walton was more of also a personality with the hippie stuff and all that. So I actually put Walton over Mays in that scenario, figuring that'd be a better interview. But
yeah. I just think the statement of ever having Willie Mays possibly on the cast or possibly even have a conversation with is just unbelievable. So
there's no wrong answers there.
So
unless you pick Shelley Duvall and Amazing Kreskin.
Mike, let's get out of this death tournament for a little bit. My brain needs a little reset, a little calibration going into the next round.
Big responsibilities we're talking about here, Scott.
There's a lot on my plate, man. There's a lot on my plate. So I think we need a palate cleanser, a little what is that, gelato that they serve? Like a intermezzo.
Like a little lemon sorbet.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly. A little sorbet. AKA it's time for a little bit of an interview. Mike, who we got this week? First episode of the year.
Well, Scott, a couple weeks ago, if people were big in football, they saw the little viral story of a duck that flew into Tampa Bay Stadium and was on the field during a big part of the game where the Buccaneers blocked a punt. But you figured the story would end there, but the story concluded with a man named Anchor Brant, who is part of the staff of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who went onto the field, picked up the duck, and left the field with it, getting chants of ducky, ducky, ducky.
Yep.
He's an interesting character and all, and he also has a very sweet mullet that we will be definitely asking questions about. So let's find out about this viral story with Anchor Brant, Scott.
And this is good for us because usually we'll get these viral stories 7 years after they happen.
Yeah.
We are on the money here. Teddy
once in our lives we get it right.
Teddy Roosevelt, years after the World Cup, we had Jack Joaquin, the dog that showed up like pretty well after that. There was one more I was thinking of. And Parker the Snow Dog, the mayor of
what, you wanted me to get him at his inauguration?
Absolutely. But without further ado, let's get Anchor Brant on the line. There he is.
Hello.
Hey, Anchor.
How's it going?
Doing
What's going
well.
on, man? How are you?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Hanging in there. Hanging out.
Hanging in there. Well, thank you, Anchor, for joining our podcast tonight. I guess the best way to start is, has this been the most popular you have been known in your lifetime since a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, probably.
So give us a little background on yourself, Anchor. Are you, I know you work for the Buccaneers, but like, what is your background in life and all? Do you have a lot of experience with animals and stuff like that?
Yeah. So growing up, my family always owned a farm. So I've held plenty of animals. I've been shoulder deep in a cow, helping at birth and whatnot. So I've got plenty of animal skills, I suppose.
Were you ever shoulder deep for the heck of it?
No, not in a cow.
Well, if you ever release an album or something, "Shoulder Deep in a Cow" is not a bad title for it.
That's true.
So, I mean, let's break it to our listeners down a little bit, like what we're actually talking about if they're unaware. So, give us a little. So, first off, what do you do for the Bucks, and how did you come, in contact with them?
Yeah. So, funnily enough, what I do with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has nothing to do with animals. That was just kind of a one-off thing. But I was in college when I first got the job. My brother sent me a link to an Indeed website just to for a thing called a flag runner, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." So I read the little bio on Indeed, and basically was like, "Oh yeah, someone that hypes up the crowd and runs across the end zone whenever we score." I'm like, "Well, that sounds pretty cool." I did that type of stuff in high school just for shits and gigs. I'm sorry if I can't curse, but
You're fine.
All right. Yeah. So I did that type of thing, growing up just for fun. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great time. So I applied, didn't really think anything of it. A few weeks go by and I get a call from them. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And they went in. I went in and auditioned, got the job. And then, so basically what I do, my official title is flag runner, which doesn't sound very official, but basically I do game day operation type of stuff. So I get there 3 hours early before the game and set my area up. And then during the game, when, in between plays, we're throwing out beads and t-shirts, hyping up the crowd, doing all that good stuff. And then whenever we score a touchdown or an extra point or, field goal or whatever, I'm one of the people that runs across the end zone and back with a big flag and just generally be a hype man, I guess.
Well, what was the interview like? Were they looking for like speed? Were they looking for you to be like rah, rah, rah as you're running with the flag? Or
yeah, it's a little of everything. So it's like, they want to make sure that, okay, can this guy physically run? It's a very low bar, to be honest with you. But, so can you run? Yeah. Hopefully you're a little peppy. They don't want someone in there that's just going to be boring and just stand there and watch the game, which, to be fair, in between like play or during the playtime, we're not supposed to be throwing anything out to distract the crowd. So you're really just standing there on the sideline like you're at a high school football game literally watching football. Then you turn around and you're like, oh man, I'm in a stadium right now. It's actually, from that like aspect of it, it's pretty surreal. And honestly, I'd probably do it for free if I'm being real. I'm sure there's people out there that would pay money to do what I do just because it's like they're closer than front row, literally.
Yeah, and you said you've been doing it for what, 3 years?
This is my second full year. Yeah.
Okay. So you're lucky enough to have a pretty exciting team to kind of root for too. They've been on a pretty hot roll the last couple of years here. So. Yeah. So give us a little insight what happened the other day and your perspective. Like, 'cause we all saw this clip and whatnot and, had fun with it, but give us the insight on what happened to you and what happened with this duck here.
Yeah. So not too often you see any animals in the stadium, whether it be a bird, like just flying over or whatever. But so that's what first caught my attention. 'Cause I noticed it well before it landed. It was flying around the stadium it did probably 2-3 laps around the field. And I literally was pointing it out to my coworkers. I was like, oh, that would be so funny if it like landed and it landed over here near us. Sure. That's exactly what happened. And I was already like, this is crazy. Right. And then we blocked a punt and returned it for a touchdown, which hasn't happened in like 12 years or something. So stadium's going crazy for that and for the duck. And I'm like, oh, we gotta do our jobs now. So then we run down and back with the flag and whatnot. And it's a good time. And then I get back, and that's when the refs go over to the ball boy and they're, hey, you got to get that duck out of here. And he's like, nah, I don't want to do that, because you don't want to get booed, trying to get an animal and whatnot. But finally, it came over off the field, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get it. And they're like, nah, get out of here, man. I gotta get it. I went over there, and I got down to not look as big, to the duck. I didn't want to scare it, and I just kind of started creeping over on my hands and knees real slow. Picked up a couple blades of grass. Not that they eat grass, but I was like, I wanted to have something for it to trick it, basically. And I was like, I hit it with the which I do to my cows all the time, and they come over and it was like looking at me, and I finally got close enough and just scooped it up. And then I started petting the duck, walking out of the stadium, and people were cheering.
So give me kind of like an essence of like how the duck was feeling. Like you're going up to it. Like first off, that ball guy it was rough out there. I was seeing the highlight. Like he keep on just trying to like push it, and then the duck was like, no, I'm not gonna handle this and all. Like was the duck like just naturally, okay, this is comfortable, I'm gonna just hand in your arms?
Pretty much. I mean, as soon as I scooped it up, it every animal's gonna be like kind of do one or two jolts just to like see what's up, to see if it can escape. But once it feels, because the way you got to hold an animal is kind of like how you hold a baby, like not too tight because you don't want to hurt it.
By the scruff. Gotcha.
Exactly. Right. But it's got to be tight enough to where they're not going to, flail out of your arms or anything. So it was a nice middle ground, and then started petting it to just kind of reassure it, so to speak. But it was actually pretty calm once I was starting holding it. The only time it like had any issue was when I was in the tunnel. People, like a lot of people wanted to, come up and take a picture. So it started like clawing at me a little bit, and it clawed my arm pretty good. After I released it, I came back inside and I was pointing at my arm. I was like, hey, this is hazard pay, right? So they all started laughing, but that was a good time.
So take us to post what we see. Where did you end up taking the duck? Did you release him back just outside? Was there a place you walked out to? Give us that behind the scenes, if you will, of this incident.
So as soon as I grab it, I go over to I'm heading towards like one of the tunnels where we run out, and I motioned my boss. I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna go outside. She's like, yeah, you should probably do that, right? And everyone's chanting ducky ducky, and as I'm walking out, it's pretty funny. But so I'm in the tunnel, and then there's basically a big like concourse underneath the stadium for behind the scenes stuff to go on. So I'm in there. A lot of people are coming over because they're like, is that, they're doing double takes. There's a fucking duck over there. They're all laughing and whatnot. They're coming over, taking pictures, and then I just keep walking out past security. And they're all trying to stop me, like, man, where'd you get a duck? I was like, long story, but I'm sure you'll see it later. Yeah. And so I keep walking out, and there's not a lot of people outside the stadium because it's middle third quarter. And we were up big, so people wanted to stay and watch. Yeah. So there wasn't a whole lot of people outside, and I went like well to the back of the nearest parking lot where there's a bunch of like trees and grass and stuff, and set it down. And I was looking at it, because it just kind of stood there and looked at me. So I was looking back at it, and I was like, look, man, I'd love to hang out with you, but I got to get back to work. And then I turned around, and I was like still watching it as I was walking away. And then it started walking away, and it, gaining speed and took off and flew. And honestly, it was like it was out of a movie because it was really picturesque, and the lighting was on it as it flew away. And it was a cool moment for sure.
Were there any thoughts about keeping that thing and becoming like a duo?
Yeah, I did, but the thing there's no way for me to put it, and it's not like I could hold it for the rest of the game because it was a full.
Could you imagine the scene of you running with the flag in one hand and the duck in the other, though?
The buck duck. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I got a lot of comments on my video and on just a bunch of different stuff across all platforms of people DMing me and be like, oh, what'd you do with the duck? Or, oh, you should have kept it. Or what's its name? And all these different things. And it's like, believe me, I wanted more than anything to keep it because my first thought was like, this is going to be such a big PR like slam dunk for the Bucks, no matter what, especially if we kept it. But it's like, at the same time, there's plenty of people out there that'd be like, you shouldn't keep a wild animal, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, besides all that, I thought it'd be like a big thing. I didn't know how big it was going to get. People like animals, and it was a cool situation. It helped that there was a touchdown right there. So I feel like it was a lot of things that happened just at the same time that helped make it as big as it was. But, yeah, I wanted to keep it. I mean, I have a farm, and all my all my animals here, they're all like pets to me and my family. So, it would have done really well here. But again, like I live 2 hours away from the stadium, so it would have probably torn up my car or something if I put it in there.
So when you go back into the stadium, the game plays and whatever, about how long, like, after the game did you realize, hey, people kind of recognize me, or like people are like trying to come out and talk to you afterwards?
Yeah, well, so even, I mean, it was still during the game, because everyone, a lot of the people that have season tickets near the field already recognize you, because I mean, I'm there every week and we rotate corners and all this stuff. So those people already recognize me, and they're, especially the ones in that corner, because they're like, oh, you caught the duck, that was awesome, woo, or whatever. And then the next quarter happens, so we go to the other side, and all those people are like, hey, you're that guy, right? Yeah, yeah, whatever. And then after the game, as I'm walking back to my car with, we all park pretty far away, me and everyone I work with, we're all walking back, and they're all like, oh, this guy caught the duck, and everyone's like, oh, that was crazy, blah, 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 blah. Of course, no one knew my name. But then we had another home game yesterday, actually, and I didn't even make it out of the first parking lot without people being like, Anchor, you, Anchor, right? I was like, yeah. So that's cool. It's a lot of people were, hey, Duckman. I mean, people would always already kind of call me out for other things, because I have a mullet and a
well, I was just gonna say, let's not ignore the other half of why there might be a little bit of recognition and notoriety and oh my god, character building that goes with this. It is these luscious locks that we are staring at as we interview you. I mean, I looked at a picture of you, when you were doing the contest or whatever. If you still looked like that, I think the duck story might have died quicker. But you have this unbelievable mullet here. So for people who are listening on audio, they're like, oh, well, that was cool. But no, you have a flowing mullet that is, from what I can tell, past your shoulders, a huge mustache. When did the commitment to this happen? Like, how does one go from, all right, I'm done with normal hair, I'm going party was a party in the front? No, business in the front, party in the back, all day. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've always been a very outgoing guy, and my mom over the pandemic was like, "Oh man, you gotta let your hair grow out. You have these beautiful curls. You might as well do it." I was like, "You know what? Why not? There's nothing else going on. No one's gonna see me. While it looks stupid in that middle stage." So I committed to it, because I had a little bit of a fro going, and I was like, "All right, fine. I'll cut the sides, whatnot." And trim up the top, and I just committed to it. And everywhere I go, every time I go out to a bar, I go out with my friends on the weekends. Every time I go out to a bar, I don't know, I probably average 20 compliments between my mustache and my mullet, and it's a good time. And people have bought me beers because of it.
I'm sure.
Or just I've seen some boobies because of it. It's just a good time. So it's always a good time.
Yeah. See, you got some good genetics and all, because I kind of had the same story when COVID happened, where I'm just like, there's no reason to get a haircut. It's COVID, and I let it go. Yeah. And I got the opposite from you and all. Like, I literally saw Scott. He lives in New Jersey. I live in Georgia. I saw him for the first time last year, and he literally pulled me aside. He's like, dude, what the hell are you going to do with that hair there? Is there a plan here? And I'm like, no, not really. I didn't know how to end this story.
Well, you also leaving out the part where you saw a picture of me and you were like, Oh boy! Like I think it's time.
Even I was like, the journey failed.
So you cut this mullet, this awesome mullet. What is the mullet maintenance like? Give us a little there's got to be a lot going on there.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I've thought about cutting it for a long time, but right when I'm like, I'm gonna do it like this week, something happens where like I catch a duck on national television and everyone's like, oh man, that mullet's so good. And it's like, well, fuck, now I got to commit to it for a little longer.
Cancel great clips.
Yeah. And it's funny. I cut my own hair. I mean, I need to trim it up right now, but it's like growing up, my mom would always cut my hair. And then I went off to college and I was like, fine, I'll cut my own hair. So it takes a while. I don't always do the best job, but you look in the mirror, you got some trimmers, you trim it up, do the top with some scissors, cut off the split ends for the long hair. Save some money, but that's a lot of work. But let me tell you, man, I dread washing my hair in the shower because it's not like just squirt some shampoo, rub it in, that's it. When you got long hair, I brush mine out in the shower because I have curly hair, so that takes a while. Then you got to shampoo it. I don't always use conditioner. A lot of women, people with long hair are like, condition your hair, that's crazy. It looks so good and in the light or whatnot. So every once in a while you can condition it. And then after I shampoo it or whatever, I like to comb it for whatever reason. I'm weird like that. And then I just let it air dry. You kind of touch it up with a towel, but usually let it air dry and whatnot. And then that part in the shower is not like the worst, but then it's like, and then you're like, well, now I don't want to wash my hair, every day like I would do when I had short hair all over. Now it's like I'm not doing anything today. I won't touch the back of my head, when I'm, as far as the shampoo goes and whatnot or whatever. And then you got to put it up in claw clips because it's like, I don't want it to be blowing in the wind. And
maybe we didn't give these like 80s wrestlers enough credit. Because you got like Jake the Snake vibes going on from the maybe these guys there's more to them than we originally say.
Now you also entered like a mullet competition. I'm shocked that you didn't advance and all. Do you feel the greatness of the mustache took away from the greatness of the mullet, perhaps?
Oh, good question.
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I like to think it complements it, because I'm wearing a Van Halen t-shirt right now for the people that can't see. I fully commit to the 80s stuff because I grew up and my dad would always play old music like that. So that's what I'm totally into. And I was like, if I can rock the mullet, another predominantly 80s thing, I was like, maybe I can do a Tom Selleck mustache with it, and then I'll just kind of let it go a little more, and that's more of a handlebar type of thing going on right now. But women love that too. Let me tell you.
I think it's a package deal. I think they both go together. Now, since all the incidents, I see on the final game of the season they brought in another duck and all.
Do you feel this is going to be a forever thing where it's just going to be a rally thing until the end and all? Like if you get a Super Bowl now, you have to have the parade with a bunch of ducks with you.
I could see that very well being a possibility. Like when one of the very first viral internet videos, there was a cat playing a keyboard, and there was like a Tampa Bay Rays thing in the background. And then they adopted that cat as one of like their official mascots. So when you go to the games, there's DJ Kitty's his name, and he's an actual mascot now and whatnot. So if something like that they want to do, and they have a guy in a duck costume with a Bucks jersey on next to Captain Fear, which is the actual mascot, I mean, I could see that happening. Depending on the life of an internet meme varies drastically, but it's usually not very long. So if it can stay afloat, pun intended, I could see it being like that. Yeah.
Come on, you could outlast the Hawk Tuah girl. You got this.
Don't make a crypto with the duck. That's the only advice I give you.
Yeah, the duck coin.
Yeah. We'll
see about that.
Which was a bigger moment for the Bucs. Mike Evans getting that 5 yards at the end of the game, or your clip.
Oh, who knows? Probably the Mike Evans thing, only because people probably like him more than me. But my 15 minutes of fame was definitely cool.
So now with everything that's happening right now, I'm kind of curious, what is the Anchor Brant vision of the future and all? Are you full time with the Buccaneers? Is that a side job, or what kind of things do we look for in Anchor Brant in the future?
So right now it's a side gig. I would love to work for him full time. Maybe I'll be able to get a job offer out of this. Who knows? But now I'm in between jobs right now because I was actually planning on moving out of state soon. But if they come back and they're like, hey, we want you to be a part of the PR team or something, I got my degree in communication, so it would actually kind of work. But if that happens, cool. If not, it wasn't. I wasn't planning on catching a duck and going viral for it. So, I was planning on moving and doing something else, but it's open for me, honestly. Now, a dream of mine would be to, I go off and become, a successful movie star or something. Do I get a movie made about catching duck? Probably not. But you know what? That would be cool.
I mean, I could think of one genre of movies your hair and mustache would kill it.
Yeah.
Well, Anchor, we appreciate you coming on and everything and hearing your story and all. It's these little small stories and different things we just love talking about on the podcast. So if people want to learn more about you or look up your social media, where are the best places to go to find out more about Anchor Brant?
Probably my TikTok, because I use that the most just to post, random videos I take whenever I go out and I'm all drunk. So if you want the quote unquote real Anchor Brant, that's where to go. But the better looking stuff I probably post on Instagram just because it's employers might look at that one. And then my Facebook, go ahead and friend me. I don't care. I don't really post on that stuff, but you'll see my mom post a lot of stuff about me. So life updates from my mom about me, if that's what you're looking for.
Now, does she have the long hair like you, or you just get it from your dad?
A little bit of both, I guess. She's got longer hair right now, but she's starting to cut it short. She's going through that stage of womanhood and where you stop doing the long hair and you do shorter and shorter each year.
No mullet though, right?
Yeah, no mullet.
Mullet Mom would be a good movie.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Anchor, final question for you. I didn't plan on this when I first contacted you about getting you on the podcast, but just out of curiosity,
who's
you thinking about this weekend?
Yeah.
Are you planning the rest of your year, considering what's going to happen Sunday, out of curiosity?
Actually, I am, because I was planning, after not moving quite this minute, but I was going to do it by the end of January. But seeing how we're in the playoffs now, we're going to be playing the Commanders with your hat, right? There is a good possibility that we win. Now, even if we win, the Eagles would have to lose their home game for us to have another, because of how the seeding works. Now, they're playing the Packers. Packers aren't looking too bad. They've got a decent squad, and not saying that the Eagles are bad, but the Packers almost beat them earlier this season, and the Eagles have had some hiccups recently. So I wouldn't rule it out that they lose, the Eagles lose, and we sneak by with a win, and we get a second home game. And then, maybe the Vikings beat the 4th seed Rams, and then they play Detroit, and they beat Detroit, because it's rare a team beats the same team 3 times in a row. So
sure.
I mean, maybe we beat whoever we beat the next week. Or I guess that would be the Packers. No. I don't know. Anyways, there is a crazy way that we could end up going to the national the NFC championship game, which I would be working if it's a home game. Now, unfortunately, if we make it to the Super Bowl, I'm not contracted to work that, which would totally blow that your team goes and you don't get to. But
they don't need flags in New Orleans? Come on now.
That's what I'm saying. Well, apparently, so as you guys probably remember, a couple years ago when the Buccaneers were in the Super Bowl, it was actually in Tampa. That was the first time I think that had ever happened. The home team was at the and even that year, I didn't work there then, but even that year, the people weren't allowed to work it because it's like they didn't want to make it any more of a quote unquote home field advantage than usual. So unfortunately, the highest game would be the NFC Championship game that I'd be able to work.
Listen, I'm your lips to God's ears. I'm a Giant fan, so Commanders loss and an Eagles loss, I'd be go Bucks all day long. It's totally fine with me.
Well, I say if the Commanders win, we make a bet where I'll be allowed to go on the Bucks field and catch the next wild animal that comes onto the field.
Hey man,
I feel that is the only proper way to end this segment. And
that's fine with me. That's fine. I don't know if you'll be able to get in there, but if I see you in the crowd, I'll be like, oh yeah, no, that guy's good.
Yeah. It's cool. I'm Anchor's boy, and there's a Bobcat on the field. I got this.
Exactly.
Yeah, Mike's an anchor, all right. Yeah.
Anchor, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Good luck with everything in life and all. And I would say good luck this Sunday, but understandable. Yeah. So,
well, thanks for having me on, guys. It's been a good time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Anchor Brant, Mike. That is one that definitely fits our bill, if you will.
Oh, nice pun with the bill.
I didn't even think about that. I swear to God.
Yes, you did.
I swear to God.
I saw the gleam in your eye as you were saying it. Like I saw you whisper something to your wife in the background, and then you did a little laugh, and I could tell that was the big joke of yours.
Listen,
Scott.
I didn't do that. I'm not going to stress about it because to me, life, I just let things roll off like water off a duck's back, man.
Oh, you did it again. You did it again.
I think you should have made a bet with him that you would have cut the mullet if they lost. Like you would have started your mullet till the next season.
Honey, since Jaden Daniels got injured, I gotta let my hair grow for 3 years again. Yeah. Sorry about that.
And it's going to be arguably
much worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had the sides grow out and the back wouldn't, Scott, but this is what we got.
Yeah. But Anchor Brent, go check him out. Pretty cool story. All right, Mike. Let's jump back into the tournament of death.
Let's just jump back in. Day 2 is a vodka mule. Day 3 is a slightly mighty Indian pale ale. The next day is
slightly mighty, not the slighty mighty.
Well, maybe I invented a beer. You don't know. Pumpkin ale there. Vodka crush. And a plastic cup where I had to rip into the other day just to get it out. So I figure everybody was interested in the advent calendar. But
see, I don't think it counts unless you indulge in every single one of those days at once.
I don't know. I mean, I do have to go back to work within the next month, but yeah.
All right, let's dive back into this thing. I'm going to never mind. You did say who you picked. Let's go to the north, man. We went to the north. Let's come on up. Yep.
All right, Scott. We got founding member of the Grateful Dead, Phil Lesh, going up against Mr. Baseball, Pete Rose.
Oh, big sports here, man. Some big names in sports.
Yeah.
Crazy. I'm not the biggest Grateful Dead fan, not because I don't like them, but just I never really just got into them that much. Maybe there's one day I just start spinning Grateful Dead all the time.
The algorithm's listening to you, Scott.
Darts, paint, Grateful Dead. It might clean up the verbal shenanigans algorithm. All we do is get big boobed women. Instagram is a cesspool out there. Anyway, yeah, I know Phil Lesh. I respect him as a musician. I would have loved to talk to him, but how do I not talk to arguably one of the best hitters of all time, best all-around baseball players of all time? The controversial the controversy, the stupid things he did in wrestling, the desperateness at the end of his life doing like autograph shows, the Hall of Fame. There's just too much to talk to with Pete Rose, whether on a podcast or at the diner, just chatting it up. So I got to go with Pete Rose.
Okay. Workout enthusiast celebrity Richard Simmons takes on some guy who got famous in 1994 before his football career. You may have heard of him, O.J. Simpson.
Big matchup here in the North. How do you, Richard? These are two people that could get us like big time notoriety if we brought one of these guys back and chatted with. Imagine saying, episode 500, we have O.J. Simpson coming on. I mean, we would be the most listened to podcast in the world for a week or two.
And then fall back to
we go back to Richard Simmons. Always felt like maybe that would be a type of guy that would be on our show at some point until he kind of lost his mind.
He went secluded for a while.
Do I want to be the guy that brings back O.J. Simpson, a most likely murderer, not a good guy, one of the best running backs of all time, but oh man, Richard Simmons, really interesting. This, hi, I'm Richard Simmons, and you're listening to Verbal Shenanigans. That's quite a drop at the beginning of the episode, but
in his like exciting voice.
Yeah. I'm not going to put it on my conscience. I'm going to bring back Richard Simmons. I'm not going to bring back a guy who probably slit his ex-wife's throat.
Yeah.
Although would be cool to talk to him. No.
Horror legend Candyman.
Hold on.
Yep.
You did say I could bring back someone at any age.
That is true. That is.
Can I bring pre-murder,
brain damage, OJ,
naked gun, funny, goofy OJ?
Like you could bring him back, but it doesn't change his history. I would say. So, like, even though it's like. He's talking about, I'm doing this Frogman movie, and I was almost a Terminator. I'm in these naked guns. Everybody listening still knows that's the dude in the Bronco that killed his wife.
Okay. OJ, boy, do I got to tell you what happens in your life. What?
What are you talking about?
All right. I was just clarifying. So it's not a time machine. I could just bring him back at any age. Okay. Richard Simmons.
Okay. So as I was saying, horror legend, the Candyman, Tony Todd versus, sadly, former guest of the Verbal Shenanigans podcast, Sid Udy, a.k.a. Sid Vicious, a.k.a. Psycho Sid.
This is an interesting one because we had Sid on a couple years back. Those of you who don't know, professional wrestler, both WWE, WCW
world champion in both.
Yeah, big monster guy. Couldn't believe I got him. It was another one that I just annoyed the guy who said he paused. I don't even know how that one happened. That one happened like someone responded to something and said they had Sid. Even though I wasn't really sure he was even coming on. We called him. He kind of didn't really even sound like he knew an interview was going to happen. And then he just like talked to us for like an hour. We said a couple words in there. Nice guy. Tony Todd would be like a whole, horror icon where there would be a whole avenue of people who would be really interested in hearing from him. Do I weigh out, we talked to this guy already, so I have no use for him and get the new audience? Or do I want to bring back Sid like when he was a little bit more, I don't know, younger and with it and in his prime and talk to him? And
whatever you do not jump off a top rope, Sid. Do not do that. It does not go well.
Oh, yeah. The leg. I'm going to go, since we talked with him and never really even explored the Candyman era, and there'd be a big audience for it, I'll go Tony Todd. I'll do that. Sorry, Sid.
Yep.
But we talked to you already, so. You didn't really bump our numbers up either. So
Point taken. Finally, actor, comedian, Richard Lewis against another big voice of the NFL community, Greg Gumbel.
Yeah, this one just happened a few days ago. This is a tough one too, because Richard Lewis, I can't sit here and tell you I was ever into his like comedy, but he was in movies I liked and played like a lot of
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Right.
He was phenomenal in that.
Yeah. Who we also had someone from Robin Hood Men in Tights on this year on our show. So he did a lot of stuff like that. Greg Gumbel, so many stories about just being in the broadcasting world. You know what? I guess I'll go with Greg Gumbel. I feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone there. Richard Lewis, of course. If I was a little bit more into him as like a comic, not that I just never really listened to his stuff. I'll go with Greg Gumbel just because I love broadcasting and things like that. So I'll bring him back.
Okay. So that's the end of the North round. And I can tell you, Scott, we matched up perfectly.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I had the same thoughts about OJ versus Richard Simmons. I had the same thoughts of, we had Sid Vicious on. We didn't. Tony Todd is huge in the horror community. So I had all the same thoughts as you. So congratulations.
Okay. All right. Congratulations that I had the same thoughts as you.
Yes. You did correctly. I'm proud of you.
So I should feel happy that my thoughts are aligned with your thoughts.
Well, I figure every time your thoughts do that, you feel proud of yourself. And like you end the podcast, you go upstairs and like, honey, I matched tonight. I feel good.
Yeah. So see, I play God Complex the first episode every year. You play God Complex the other 50 episodes.
247, 365.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right, Scott. Let's get to the East. Let's start off.
I don't like that I just said East Coast in the West Coast. Like West Coast, I said East Coast. I feel like I didn't do that right.
Nah, you should be ashamed. No street cred.
Nope.
Let's start with famous sex therapist and on television for a long time, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, taking on this little-known actor. He'd done a couple of independent films, Star Wars, Lion King, Coming to America, very high-pitched voice, some dude named James Earl Jones.
I don't like this matchup. I don't like it.
What's going on?
These are two people they're so polar opposite that I'd both really like to talk to. Like, I would love to chop it up with Dr. Ruth here on the show and hit on her a little bit, ask her some sexy questions, make her giggle like, like I feel like she's a sweet little lady. Could have been really interesting to talk to, break down some things. We haven't really had anyone in her avenue on the show, really. I mean, we had the Penis Museum on, but I'm not quite sure.
We had a penis puppeteer. So.
We did. We're very focused on the penis here.
All right. February starts, March is vaginas, okay? Write it down.
March, vagina month. February, dart month. What is this podcast? But how can I not bring back James Earl Jones just to hear that voice for a couple more years and hear it again? Would there be any better bumper at the beginning of our episode than "This is James Earl Jones and you're listening to would there be any other voice that you'd want?
We literally had a guest who his famous phrase, "What's up?" done by James Earl Jones, and it's so iconic in James Earl Jones's voice.
I agree. Like, I can think of one other voice I would want a bumper. Give me Morgan Freeman doing a bumper at the beginning of our episode. Other than that, I think it's James Earl Jones, the two of them. I'll bring James Earl Jones back from the dead. Sorry, Dr. Ruth. I would have liked to bring you back.
That's how the matchups line up sometimes. I can't help it.
Didn't like that one. That. I was a little uncomfortable.
Okay, Academy Award winner, most famous recently for the Harry Potter series.
The Amazing Kreskin.
No. He's so amazing he made 2 brackets. Maggie Smith versus Love Connection host Chuck Woolery.
Oh, man, we go from a heavy matchup to one I don't care about here. Let's see.
I can't wait for the second round.
Maggie Smith. I just had to Google who that was again. Got it. I know her face. Chuck Woolery. Move on.
There's no analysis, no nothing. I like your chances, Chuck, against James Earl Jones. Well, I did like that one episode of Love Connection, I gotta say. See, the thing was, I thought they were going to connect, but they did.
That matchup stunk. I don't need either one to go with.
That's like those. Not even like the 16th seed, but the 16th seed had to play the 16th seed to get in.
The play-ins, yeah.
All right. Beverly Hills 90210, Shannon Doherty versus Jackson 5's own Tito Jackson.
Good matchup here. Okay, you brought it back here. We brought it back to a matchup here. Get one of the original Jackson 5. In the podcast, or Shannon Doherty, part of a
Charmed, she was on as well.
Major show. She was kind of sexy. Tito, we could talk about his family. We could talk about Michael. You know what? She suffered a lot at the end there for breast cancer and whatnot. I'm going to bring back Shannon Doherty here.
Oh, okay.
Not that I was like a big 90210 fan. I just feel bad for it. I think there'd be a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, definitely with a reputation in Hollywood, getting thrown off of 2 shows. So
yeah.
All right, final one of the first round. Country music legend Toby Keith versus
who I found out died yesterday.
Oh, you were getting ready for this bracket.
No, I was watching the roast of 2024 or whatever on Netflix, and they're like, Toby Keith died. I'm like, Toby Keith's dead? So I just found that out. Toby Keith, okay.
Versus former lead vocalist of Iron Maiden, Paul Di'Anno.
Well, we all know that the real vocalist of Iron Maiden is Bruce Dickinson. There will be no second place. He's just the best. And who's he facing again? Sorry.
Toby Keith.
I don't even like Toby Keith either.
I got Virgil from the WWE just hanging out. I mean, I could swap him in if you want.
You might want to tag him in against James Earl Jones.
All right, Scott, you can bring back Chuck Woolery and Virgil if you leave James Earl Jones out of the tournament.
You know what, though? We've had a couple of country artists along the way, but we've never had like a big country artist on yet. I still think Raina Roberts is going to end up being a big name, unless
she was on Christmas with Beyonce. So
yes, shout out to Raina over there. Really good, fun person to interview. I'll bring back Toby Keith. I'll bring him back. I feel like there's a lot we can get into, regardless if I'm into his music or not. I feel like there's a lot to chat about with Toby Keith.
All right. We are done with the first round. Just to let you know, the only difference I had versus you was I brought Tito Jackson into the next round. I think there's one.
Yeah.
I mean, just even talk about his childhood would be an episode right there. Now, we don't even need to go through outside of the Jackson 5 right there. All right, Scott. So how are you feeling with the bracket so far? Is there any matchups that you're in your head saying, about?
Well, I feel good about my choices. There's none that I'm like, oh man, like that was a tough one. I feel pretty, like my reasoning was pretty good. I don't feel like I had any absurd ones pop through. I feel confident with my game plan here. I will say this year's tournament, usually there's a couple like names that like bum me out, or I anticipate them being towards the top, depending on who they match up with. I don't really have like a gut feeling on anyone quite yet where I'm like, this is my guy, this is my horse. That like a couple years ago we brought up Taylor Hawkins. There was one of the random celebrity deaths that really bothered me for some reason. I just really liked the guy, and I just thought they were going to be around forever, kind of thing. And he didn't even make it to the finals because the way the matchups happened. Where the other year, Tom Petty died, and I kind of had a gut feeling from the beginning that he was making it to the final in a brutal matchup against Prince, which was maybe that might have been the strongest matchup against each other. But I did have a little gut feeling I might go with Tom Petty because I was a big Petty fan. So I'm not feeling any of that this year. So I'm kind of interested how this plays out.
Okay. So I'm just going to go right into the second round. I'm just going to go right into the north right here. And your first matchup in the second round is Pete Rose versus Richard Simmons. Oh,
see, this is a powerhouse matchup here.
Yeah.
How do I get rid of Richard after he just defeated OJ? You know, like Richard is so unique, you know, and it would be a really fascinating interview. But how do I weigh that up against one of the most controversial figures in sports? Now, that guy's been hero, villain. Like, people come around him all the time. Every time he does something terrible, they come back around like he should be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I think this is where Richard's got to go. I think I got to push Pete Rose through onto the next round.
Right, and in the other matchup, we have Tony Todd versus Greg Gumbel.
Now, this is a matchup I don't have strong feelings about either of these. I like some horror movies. I'm not a horror junkie like you and maybe Dom a little bit, or our friend Dom. But I do see the value in him bringing him. But also Greg Gumbel, like I you know, like I've done a little bit of play-by-play and stuff like that in my time, and I really find it fascinating. I think I'm going to keep Greg Gumbel going. I think I'm going to bury Mr. Todd. You know, not for any real reason, other than I think Greg Gumbel might be more my speed.
All right, we'll go to the South where Carl Weathers takes on Dikembe Mutombo.
Oh, oof. Another big second round. Oh, God. Dikembe, there's a lot of story to him. His past, his humanitarian work, his basketball career. He played for a lot of teams.
I loved him when he was on the Sixers, man. We went to the finals 1 year with him.
He was the guy, like, later in his career, everybody kind of grabbed him for those playoff runs, for some blocks and some presence. I don't know, though. Carl Weathers, to me, Apollo Creed is one of the greatest characters in movies possibly ever. Like, if I was going to make, like, I don't know, top 25 characters or whatever, like movie characters that like were unique, and you see him, you're like, that's Apollo Creed. 20 years later, you say, he's Apollo Creed. The Mandalorian comes on, you go, oh, Apollo's in it. I mean, Carl Weathers is in it, you know, like I just find him so iconic in that role. And the dude was shredded. Him with Arnold, those arms. Oh my God.
Total manhood right there.
Oh, I got a little man crush out. I'm gonna push Carl Weathers through.
For the man crush? Okay.
Yeah, why not?
All right. You do your thing, man.
Hey, man, Predator 2?
I'm not objecting. Believe me. Okay. Legends in their sports. Jerry West, Willie Mays.
I'll keep this one short. I kind of, you touched on it yourself. You're not the biggest basketball guy. I had a period of time where I was really into basketball. Sean Kemp, if you're listening, episode 500 is coming. We really need you here, buddy. But anyway, I was a big baseball guy. Yeah, still, I have my years where I'm still really into it. I got to go Willie Mays here. I mean, you're talking, relations to like color barrier stuff. Like there's so much to get into with him. So I'll go Willie Mays.
All right, I'm going to go to the West. I'm going to start on the bottom side, and I'm going to do Ricky Henderson versus Johnny Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau.
Gaudreau versus Ricky Henderson. Again, the tragic part of it would easily be Gaudreau, Ricky Henderson. Not an old man though. Ricky, what was he? 65, I think.
65, yeah.
Not ancient. In a very heavy sports category again, I guess just for career and overall things to talk about and things to discuss, I think I'll put tragedy aside, and I think I'll bring Ricky Henderson back.
Comedian Bob Newhart versus Jimmy Carter.
I'm going to bring a president back. I'm going to bring Jimmy Carter back. Bob Newhart, so much to talk about. Again, there's a lot of comics out there, a lot of actors. There's only 40-something presidents, so I'll bring Jimmy Carter back to have a chat with.
Shannon Doherty versus Toby Keith.
Shannon Doherty is way sexier than Toby Keith. Give me Shannon back. She's getting in on her looks. I'm objectifying her, Mike.
Hey, it's your choices right here. Now, if you need to pause the podcast for this last one to think it out, let me know. We have that voice guy, James Earl Jones, versus both Chuck Woolery and Virgil. Virgil has made the tournament with Chuck Woolery. They're a tag team. They're going to jump James Earl Jones.
What a tag team that is. I can't. James Earl Jones has to go through in a blowout matchup in the second round.
Okay. All right. So now we are down to the champions of each bracket, Scott.
So let's check in on your bracket.
Okay.
Where you disagreed with me.
All right. I have Pete Rose versus Tony Todd. I like Greg Gumbel, but I think just more, as you pointed out, I'm more of a horror guy, and I feel that it's such an iconic role, the Candyman. He's done so many horror movies along the way, or I loved his different roles, Final Destination, and I was like, and his voice is just so iconic too, and also I had to pick that right there.
Mm-hmm.
I had Dikembe Mutombo upsetting Carl Weathers. I think just out of like the personality and stuff like that, it's just funny, and I think I have to bring him along. And I had Bill Walton coming with Dikembe on this one. Right
big.
There.
Like I said, I feel like this is the heaviest sports one we've had in a while with some big sports names.
Yeah, like music, it was kind of light with the passings, and even like in the acting world, there wasn't like many like, oh man. I mean, obviously some heavy hitters,
sure,
and
I feel like there's a good amount of age in this year's bracket too. Like not like too many tragedies. There's a couple in here, obviously, but
I had Jimmy Carter facing Quincy Jones again, with just being the media mogul he is. So many stories he could tell. Quincy Jones. And I have James Earl Jones taking on Tito Jackson.
Wow. Okay. Now our brackets are starting to shift a little bit from each other. All right. Let's do it.
But we got crowned some champions. The Northern champion.
Where did you have Virgil and Chuck Woolery?
They're going to come in at the end and just upset. They're going to win the bracket without even like being in the tournament,
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. For the North, Pete Rose or Greg Gumbel?
I think this is where Greg Gumbel his ride is going to stop.
Yep.
I don't know how many layers there is to Greg Gumbel for me to be interested in. I'm interested in the broadcasting part. Pete Rose, I feel like you could pick one part of his life and just talk about that, and it's controversial.
Just talk about him going to WrestleMania again, like choke slam by Kane and getting a stink face from Rikishi.
Exactly. Pete Rose has to advance for me.
For the South, Carl Weathers or Willie Mays?
Ouch. All-time baseball icon. Apollo Creed, Predator. Oh. You know what? This is just gut instinct, and sometimes I talk myself into loving someone that I didn't think I loved.
Like Kimbo Slice?
Yeah, Kimbo Slice. DMX I knew was a strong competitor in that one. I still miss DMX. I'm probably gonna get flack for this one, but I'm pushing Carl Weathers over Willie Mays. Something about and I'm bringing Carl Weathers back jacked, like in the best shape. Like I want him shirtless during the interview.
Exactly.
Yep.
We do send that in the email. We do request that.
No one ever checks the box. Like
I know. And they wonder why we stall for a minute when we start. All right. For the West title, President Jimmy Carter or Ricky Henderson?
Jimmy and Ricky here. 100-year-old president, living the big life. Ricky Henderson, stolen base. You know what? The rest of the tournament is helping me decide this answer because I feel like very sports heavy. I'm kind of getting tired of talking about sports guys. I'm going to push Jimmy Carter ahead because I like a nice diverse podcast like we do. So I like a nice diverse Final Four.
All right. And for the East, is it James Earl Jones or little sexy image in your head, Shannon Doherty?
It's Shannon's got to go at this point. I wasn't even a fan really of her work per se. I know many people were. I did feel terrible. Like there was always reports of her fighting breast cancer for a long time over those years. But I'm sorry, James Earl Jones has to make it.
Okay, so to differ yours from mine, I had Pete Rose and James Earl Jones here in the Final Four. Where we differ is I had Bill Walton and Quincy Jones in my Final Four.
Wow. Okay. So, all right, here we go. I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out. I have some ideas in my head, but let's hear it.
All right, Scott. Pete Rose or Carl Weathers?
Now, do I want Pete Rose? There's so many layers here. Carl Weathers, acting wise, there's a lot of layers. I don't know a ton about Carl Weathers outside things that much. I wasn't like this super fan.
Yeah.
But I do, as we're talking through this tournament, I want to learn more about Carl Weathers. I want to know his story a little bit. Was he like, why was he so jacked? Like, what kind of athlete was he before acting? Like, I don't know any of this stuff. Like, was he a football player? Was he a basketball player? Pete Rose? There's so much to talk about there. The only thing with Pete did seem like kind of an asshole in a lot of interviews.
And he did some scummy stuff.
Yeah, he did some scummy stuff. He didn't seem really that nice. Like, he always seemed kind of like irritated when he was being interviewed. This is strange. I'm going to push Carl Weathers over Pete Rose.
I love it. Yep. I love it. Scott, Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, or President Jimmy Carter?
Yeah. There's just so much to get into with James Earl Jones. President, I don't know anything Jimmy Carter did during his presidency, nor do I care.
He was a peanut farmer. We can talk about peanuts.
He was in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I think this is where Jimmy had a nice long life until he was embarrassed by the Democrats with that pictures. James Earl Jones has to make it to the finals.
All right, Scott. In case you're wondering, I had James Earl Jones going to the finals against Pete Rose.
I think I'm going to predict that you, I've kind of felt it in this tournament. I think you have James Earl Jones going all the way. You don't have to reveal that to me yet. But that was my gut feeling from the beginning, that James was your horse that you were riding into this tournament. There was a little glow about you when you were talking about James.
A little sparkle.
A little sparkle. You know how, like, when I talk about Kirby Chambliss, now I have a little dart sparkle going on the last week or so. My dart sparkle might fade over. Like next week, I could be like, I don't really care anymore, bro. But I'm kind of into the dart thing right now. I'm trying to see what's going on. You have a little James Earl Jones sparkle. I think he's your guy. I think he's your guy. So we have Carl.
Let's not worry about me, Scott. Let's worry about you, because we have a finals and we have a celebrity to bring back to this planet. Are we bringing jacked Carl Weathers, or are we bringing back the voice, James Earl Jones?
I was hoping you were going with more adjectives like jacked, oiled up, slightly sweaty Carl Weathers.
I mean, we could oil up James Earl Jones and that'll make you. This is not a Field of Dreams. What the hell?
I forgot all about Field of Dreams. This is absurd matchup. But not really though. Two actors make it to the finals this year. We've had two musicians. We have had astronauts, comedians. Norm made it to the finals one year.
He lost to DMX.
I'm looking at this as the chalk pick is James Earl Jones, right? My gut instinct should be saying James Earl Jones. He's Darth Vader. He's Bell Atlantic guy. He's got played a million. Was he the Bell Atlantic guy, right?
He did the This Is CNN.
Yeah, so many things. But this weird charm has developed through the tournament. This little Carl Weathers thing I've got going on in my head right now. I don't really.
It's happened before. Like I said, Little Richard. Like I remember when you're like, "Oh, I didn't even know he was dead," and like every time the matchup came up, you'd be like, "How can I say no to Little Richard?"
I mean, that guy, is part of inventing rock and roll almost. Those early rock and roll songs, so many of them are tied into Little Richard.
Oh, you also forgot Ray Liotta as actors who made it to the finals before.
Can I tag in Little Richard to come with Virgil?
You got to bring Chuck Woolery with them too.
I might look at this decision next year when I always ask you, like, can I have the list of champions again? And be like, what the hell was I thinking? But I don't know why exactly. But something about having Apollo Creed on the podcast, something about having him as a character, a guy to talk to, something's intriguing me about him. So I'm just going to go with my gut and go with the story that is developed in this. Usually I shut these stories down sometimes by the end. I say their magical run ends. It doesn't end today.
Not this year.
Carl Weathers is going to take down James Earl Jones in a shock upset in the finals.
Oh, my goodness.
I stand by it.
We are so glad your decision. We will contact the Weathers family and let them know of your decision. I guess we'll have to go to his gravesite and have a ceremony and have him come back up. We'll have to. There's so many moving pieces and all. Every year we do it and all it's different. So like I said, the one year we gave it to Bob Barker and we had to turn around and go to Jerry Springer's grave. It was very awkward. Very awkward. To answer your question, yes, I ended with James Earl Jones just because too many things that like resonate with me with James Earl Jones, Field of Dreams, and even like his recent stuff where he's joking around the Big Bang Theory. He was on there.
Sure.
He's just the voice and all. I mean, Lion King. I've seen that a ton of times and all. He just incredible work there and all. But I have no objections to selection and all. You made some valid points, and it was every year. It's your God complex. I give you one day. So, Scotty, thank you so much for bringing Carl Weathers back into our life and all. We are putting his name into the Hall of Fame. And look forward to having the gathering with John Glenn and Little Richard and all them. And what we always do the first week of January, come back with all the celebrities we bring back.
I mean, Carl Weathers, we're also forgetting Chubbs, Happy Gilmore.
I brought that up in my original 3. So
I as you were talking, I'm like looking up Carl Weathers. Like, is it just Apollo that I am? He was in Toy Story 4 recently. That's pretty cool too. So yeah, I'm sticking by my decision. This might be one of those things you get a text from me like 3 hours from now, like, what the hell was I talking about? But let's go. Let's stick with Carl Weathers for the W. All right, Mike, from Carl Weathers back to real life here.
Well, Scott, I got breaking news, unfortunately.
Okay.
We were going to give Carl Weathers the title, but we just had a historic trade to bring somebody else back.
Really?
Yes. Very historic. I am no longer the number 1 pick of heaven.
Wow.
Yes. The trade
Carl Weathers is?
No. Instead of Carl Weathers, I have to give a little goodbye, everybody. So, last few weeks, you've heard from me. A couple weeks ago, I talked about Callie having a tumor in her intestine. And then last week, we did the Christmas game, and she was the best Christmas gift. But
she was. She was.
You
did guess it correctly.
But yeah, unfortunately, a couple days before she left us, everybody. It's a couple weeks now. Yeah, we're going on 2 weeks now since our last episode.
Yep.
I actually just got her back yesterday. We have a little urn that we have that's, well, not an urn. It's, I forget how they call it, but we're basically going to spread her ashes in a few places. But it did come some nice things. They gave us a paw print of Callie, and they sent us some of her fur, and yeah, it was a little rough over the holidays. But I wanted to get this out just because
Sure.
she needed a eulogy. She needed this, and I kind of said in my Facebook posts, like she kind of made me learn myself because as we have talked about on the show, like I am the dog guy, and
You are.
I have gone my whole life. Somebody has a dog, I'm going to go up to them. The dog is going to get excited. We're going to be best friends. It's going to hit off like that. And as we kind of talked about on the podcast, the wife wanted to get a dog in 2016. I was a little worried about work. I was going to move it to 2017. But she kept showing me dogs, and I said, okay, we'll look. And I even thought about, like, we'll look, and I'm not going to tell her I'm going to get a dog around Christmas or whatever. But we went to see this dog. The dog was named AJ. It wasn't her. We were waiting around for the dog to see it. And the people kind of also said, hey, FYI, even if you look at AJ, it's kind of a shy dog, needs to be with other dogs. We didn't have money for 2 dogs at the time. So someone thinking, okay, we're not getting a dog today. And I do remember seeing Callie in a cage and seeing this dog with like deer spots all over her. And I remember texting a friend a picture of Callie, just like, hey, this dog looks like your dog. She had a dog, thought nothing of it. And as we're looking around, I know it's that deer spotted dog, they were bringing it over to my wife. And as my wife told me, she came up, she gave her a kiss, even though Callie was famous not for being the most generous with kisses, and sat by her lap, and she's like, can we keep her? And as I said, being the dog person, I'm so used to just like immediately, dogs love me. This is going to happen, and dogs love other dogs and all that. And at first, like, I started to question myself because I am a human being who can't adjust to being around human beings, but I love dogs. I got the dog that doesn't like to be around other dogs, but love other human beings. It was the perfect contrast of things, and I would come home and she wouldn't be excited. And I remember even telling my wife, and all, I've waited all my life to have a dog. He doesn't even love me. But she made me patient, and she made me work with her. And she was a damn good dog. And the next year, I lost my job, and my wife had to go out and work, and she was there by my side as I put in resumes all day, feeling depressed. Just sitting by my side. When I didn't feel like sitting around, we would walk and walk and walk. And we just started growing a bond. And I finally got a job, and then I got let go again, and we had to be on the couch again together. And then I got the job down in Georgia, and I had to say goodbye to her for a few months as Izzy took care of things in Jersey.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And my wife did a 19-hour, she went 19 hours straight to get down to Georgia to see me. And I remember Callie's in the back seat, and I said, "Hi, Callie." And she didn't remember me for a sec, and she started sniffing, and she got excited, and she jumped out of the car, and I didn't unleash her from her constraint in the car, and she almost choked herself. So that was interesting. Hello, Callie. Almost killing her. And I remember my dad was grumpy as hell while we were there. Me and my wife was living there. He wanted to sell the house. He didn't really want a dog in the house because Callie had long nails, and he didn't want the floor scratched. My brother was there. So my dad was literally like 3 months I was living there. He was cranky as hell. Only one he wasn't cranky with was her. Like, he would even like joke around and, I don't tell any dogs I love them and all that. And we'd have pictures where Callie would jump up on his lap while he was in his chair and just laying on him. And it was so nice. And then we got our new house. I remember when we got Callie, I'm like, one of these days I'm going to get you a house so you can run around. And then we got married in our backyard. And Callie was known for her infinite barking, if you will, with people. She was not known for being quiet. In fact, I remember we had a podcast interview, and I brought her over to your house, and you were a little peeved off because both my wife and Alex had to go outside with the dog while we were trying to interview Rain Dove. And on top of it, I forget if the recorder dropped or something like that, but then it was a bad file, and we had to double record the episode while Callie was outside parking out there. So, one other funny thing and all, before I continue, I remember when we got Callie, you were actually on vacation, and you asked me to take care of Obi during that time frame. And again, this is all part of me just so used to all dogs love each other and everything will be fine and everything will be good. I said, oh boy, I'm going to bring Callie over to meet Obi, and they're going to be bestest friends. And I opened the door. I'm not even sure if I told you. I kid you not, Callie leaped in the air like a cougar at Obi, and it was like a cartoon. Like, you know how they're like in circles and like a big dust pile going back and forth. So they were doing that. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to kill each other. But they learned to love each other because then as you were starting to go away, Obi would come over to the house and Callie would bark, bark, bark. But she was starting to get used to Vader. And then she thought she could just, being the tough dog, just like push Obi down. But Obi, with that low sense of gravity, would just like push her down, put her in her spot. But they became best friends right there. And like I said, I was in Georgia and we were getting married, and her used to be barking all the time. We had a bunch of guests over the house. I put the gate up, and she was actually on the front porch. And as I was doing my vows, I could see in the distance Callie watching us getting married. Not saying a sound, not complaining, just watching and staring. And she was such an amazing dog, like her, like the person who was fostering her was saying, and all. Just like you see her and you hear all the barking, and you think that's all she does, but when she's comfortable in her zone, she's just quiet and tame and just enjoys cuddles. And as I got the offer to get Leia, my wife's boss had a chocolate lab and said, we can't keep her. Do you want her? And I was torn, being the dog guy, and chocolate lab was always like my favorite breed growing up. But I was so torn because I said, well, I'm not going to bring a dog in this house where Callie's going to feel bad, feel shunned, and it's not going to work. But something told me to take a chance. We drove 4 hours one way. I remember posting on Facebook, doing something equivalent, doing something, talk about it later. And we laughed how you just texted me out of the blue. Are you getting another damn dog?
Yeah.
But we brought Callie into the dog park. It was literally just us and Leia. And she bark, 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 bark. But she wouldn't attack her. And we used to go past dog parks before. Like, she would bark like crazy, get violent, grab the gate, make it look like she wanted to kill all the dogs inside. It would make me not want to chance anything. But we got in the car with Leia. We drove 4 hours. It took Callie 2 hours to realize Leia was still in the car to start barking again for another 2 hours. But I got my second dog. And then I was insane with this big tongue Huskadoodle. And I got a third dog. And Callie actually had the biggest smile on her face and all, because Leia had all her puppy energy, and she was nagging Callie. But when she saw another dog was basically antagonizing Leia, she just loved it with the biggest grin on the planet. So I had 2 years with all three of them. And December was rough. We had a whole big trip to New Orleans. My Commanders were playing the Saints. I'd never been to New Orleans. I always told the wife, wanted to go to New Orleans. We finally broke the hex of the Disney Infinite Vacations. I was getting super soaked to go there. And Callie started taking a little turn, going. She even had some diarrhea and stuff, and it was getting so bad. She was kind of getting irritations and bleeding with it. And I was always on the fence of she had lumps here and there. I kind of knew what was there, but I didn't want to kind of get the official notice. But I'm like, well, we got to find out and all. We can't go on this vacation and hand her off to a neighbor to deal with it. And that's when they talked about the tumor and all that. And she was good for a little bit. They gave us a bunch of pills, and I was putting in her chicken, and she was eating well again, and I was getting excited. I'm like, okay. The reason we did this was have her there for Christmas.
Yeah.
In fact, I did my wife decided to stay home. I actually drove 7 hours one way on Saturday just to stay at the hotel room, see my football game, drive 7 hours home to get back to the dog on Sunday. But we just had a bad day one Sunday, and she would go to the bathroom and she would just flop on the ground. And I would stand her up and she would take a step and she would flop. So put her on her bed to kind of just relax, hoping it was just a bad day. And it was a hard day because talk about mixed emotions and all. So I was looking at her, hoping it was just one bad day and she would get better. That was the day my Commanders were playing the Eagles, and they had that big late win. And I remember cheering hard, then starting to cry. And then about 3 hours later, she left. Sounded like she was just coughing up something, went over, and I guess it was a stroke, and she left us. So it's a hard night, and just kind of add to like Burlew luck kind of stories. And also she went, and I talked to you outside of the podcast about like thinking of all the posts, the Facebook posts, and perfect pictures of what to say and doing all that. I put a cloth over her so like she could be by herself, if you will. So she's in the bed's in our bedroom, and the only thing I can think of is, okay, I gotta bring her downstairs to the basement, just put her aside, and then we'll take her to the vet to get cremated in the morning. And I open the basement door, and it's like I'm holding the dog bag with her in the middle, kind of by my side, trying to take it downstairs. And the other two dogs love going to the basement. And for some reason, like usually they'll just sprint by me and go all the way downstairs. I'm like 2 steps down, and Leia stops at the 3rd step, and she's like right in front of my foot. And I had this like panic attack moment because I'm like trying to maintain my control of Callie, because it's like, as you can imagine, it's a dog bed with a 30-pound dog in the middle with a sheet. And she relieved herself, the death poop, if you will. And like Leia's staying on the 3rd step, and I can't move forward and I can't move back, and I'm just panicking because I'm like, this dog won't move.
Oh God.
And I'm stuck on the stairs with my dead dog. I'm just trying to put her in the garage, where like Izzy had to like almost like poke her with a stick to get her moving so I can take her down. And then just like the next day, we put Callie in the back of the car to bring her back. And I just grab any pair of pants to go to the vet. And it's like in the car, and I look over. I guess it was the pair of pants I was wearing where I was carrying her down, because I had some of her poop on my pants. So I'm like, okay, I got to change. And then after dropping her off, I decide, well, I want to respect the dogs by bringing them to the dog park. So brought the other 2 to the dog park, kind of kept to myself, didn't want to really talk about the situation. When I was at the dog park, my battery dies. So now I'm near tears. I got to call AAA because my coverage lapsed. So I had to convince them to give me back my service and get somebody back there. Meanwhile, I did tell like one person who was asking where Callie was, what happened, is I'm near tears. I had to go back into the dog park to say, hey, anybody got a jumper cable for me?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my Christmas there. And I don't mean to be a downer first show of the year, but
nah, it's real life, man.
Yeah. But got everything back, and even like as we were talking before, like over on the side, I got a little thing hanging on the wall as I hung up the Chewbacca twerking one. It made me realize way back when Izzy got me a sign. It says, all I need is Redskins before the name change. Football and my dog. And it's the first picture we have with her. And my wife used in the drawing, so it's a picture of me and Callie on a swing. So, yeah. So my what I can tell people is that it hurts a lot. I got 2 great dogs here that's been by my side, and they're going to take over the lead spots that Callie was. All I can say is, as we are in the new year, whether it's a dog, whether it's a kid, whether it's a friend, my advice is just give a hug. You never know. So.
Yeah, man, she was a good dog. It was interesting to get to know her. Watch the little transition from, oh boy, how are these two ever going to get along, to being able to chill with my dog, and it was cool to see you transform from guy who went up to other people's dogs, and to have a dog of your own, and 2 dogs, 3 dogs, and kind of the fun we've had over the years, telling stories about the dogs, and poking fun and seeing how many dogs you're going to get and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, hearing you say that, like, I've had my dog's getting up there in age, so this is inevitable. It's part of life. He's doing all right, but I always think about this is how mentally ill I am. Like, since I've gotten a dog, I've dreaded that day. It's always been in the back of my head. Like, I don't know if I could do this when it happens. So just hearing it is like, that's rough, man.
Yeah. But it was always in my head. Like, if you remember a few weeks back, I talked about that Sweet 16 I was at, and I had a little too much margarita.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm a sad drunk. Like, one of the things Izzy brought up, she's like, you kept on talking about, you kept crying because you said, all my dogs are going to die one day.
Well,
so
in some ways, it's almost harder than having kids, because God willing, I'll die long before my children. Whereas dogs,
I should hope so, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I send them a Christmas gift. That'd be rude if that happened.
Whereas the dogs, you're on a short borrowed time. But
the best way I could say it is, I had Callie for 8 years. Considering my age, I could realistically live 4 times longer as far as a memory. So
sure. So it's good you in some ways it's better it happened rather than dragging it out, and her suffering for a long period of time, and trying to throw medicine at it, getting semi-relief. Unfortunately, this is part of the, as James Earl Jones would say, it's the circle of life. It's
well, I wouldn't know, because Carl Weathers is mascot. Thanks.
Well, ironically, I had the Weathers family send me a lock of his hair, a handprint. No. But
maybe we could clone him.
Yeah. Nah, buddy, you love that dog like no one else could. So you should be, there's nothing you could have done differently. You gave her a good life. You rescued her, and that pain just doesn't go away overnight. So
there's no last words from me this episode, people. It's just a 5-second silence for Callie.
You don't owe timing on grief to anybody. So with that, guys, we will shift gears here. We won't keep going on this, but thanks for joining us for a new year again. That's kind of what this show is. It's silly. It's an interview. It's true life stories. As I told your wife when I was talking to her doing the Christmas episode, one thing that's cool about this show, if we never make money from it, never goes anywhere, it's something I could hand my children. Be like, here's 500 plus episodes of your dad's life that happened over the last 12, however long we keep this thing going. It's basically a diary in audio form. Whether they listen to it. I don't know why
you put it on laser disc, though.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard for them to play it.
And I'm going to be pissed if I'm dead and somehow the podcast blows up. If they put it in the right outlet or get the right person. So that's it, guys. Yeah. Keep listening to us. We are climbing towards, we're trying to make episode 500 special here. It is a year 12. I hope everybody's new year is off to a good start. I know this was a little bit of a long episode, but hey, it's good to be back. And check out the Christmas episode if you can. Other than that, guys, life is funny. Laugh at it. Keep the wind at your back.